This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Friday, February 28th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. We begin this half hour on Wall Street, where the stock market reflects growing concern about the coronavirus here in the United States. The global count of infections now exceeds 83,000, and California health leaders are trying to get to the bottom of what appears to be a U.S. case of the virus spread through the community. California officials are working to figure out how a Solano County woman contracted the virus, since she hasn't traveled to China and doesn't know anyone else infected. And some experts are sounding the alarm because despite being placed on a ventilator, it took officials 4 days to test her for the coronavirus.
Every single delay in testing means potentially the virus could go to hundreds or thousands of more people.
33 people have tested positive in California, and the state is monitoring at least 8,400 others. But the governor says he needs more supplies.
We have just a few hundred testing kits in the state of California, and that's surveillance testing as well as diagnostic testing. That's simply inadequate.
Still, California health officials stress the risk to the American public remains low. The president is seeking $2.5 billion from Congress to prevent and battle the virus.
We're coming close to a bipartisan agreement, and the Congress says how we can go forward.
This comes as the vice president begins his effort to contain the virus.
In the days ahead, we're going to make sure that the full resources of the federal government continue to be brought to bear in confronting the coronavirus here at home.
As concerns rise, now a whistleblower at the Department of Health and Human Services says federal health employees who process Americans evacuated from virus hotspots didn't have proper medical training or protective gear. Fears about the virus are sending shockwaves through the markets around the world and in the U.S. The Dow Jones suffering its worst days since the 2008 financial crisis, down nearly 1,200 points Thursday, amid warnings from top Wall Street firms about the impact of the virus on businesses and earnings. Financial expert Dan Celia tells CBN News while the short-term market looks bad, investors looking long-term shouldn't be fearful.
My advice is don't change anything. Please, please do not get caught up in the fear of what might happen, or for that matter, the fear of what is happening to your portfolios, your investments, your 401ks, your IRAs.
For now, uncertainties about the impact of the virus are still hurting stocks as investors and people around the world wait to see how long it takes before the disease is contained. I want to turn now to Israel, where the top two candidates are scrambling to get voters to the polls Monday. In the last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party has taken a surprising lead over Benny Gantz's Blue and White party. Our Chris Mitchell is in Jerusalem following the race, including two new surprises.
A new poll shows as many as 400,000 Israelis may not cast ballots due to fears of the coronavirus at voting stations. The first Israeli was infected this week, and the virus dominates the news coverage, especially as voters face their third election in a year. The government is putting safeguards against the virus in voting booths and is urging calm. Meanwhile, the battle to control the next parliament is nearly a toss-up. For 2 months, all of the polls favored the Blue and White party, headed by Benny Gantz. But in the last week, Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party has surged ahead and may be nearing a Knesset majority. Why the turnaround? Author and Middle East analyst Joel Rosenberg says Bernie Sanders could be a factor. In this week's Democratic debate, he called Netanyahu a reactionary racist.
Sanders is being supported by some of the worst anti-Semites and anti-Israel figures in the Democratic Party, of which there are many pro-Israel people in the Democratic Party. But Sanders, a Jewish candidate, seems to be attracting anybody that hates Israel.
Netanyahu's battle against fraud and bribery charges is well known, and it was supposed to hurt him with voters. But last week, Israel's Attorney General announced a criminal probe into a company once run by Blue and White leader Benny Gantz. While Gantz isn't currently a suspect in the probe, the investigation hasn't helped him make the case that Netanyahu's own legal trouble should disqualify him from being prime minister. Still, Rosenberg believes voters may decide not to cast ballots for a leader who is actually under indictment.
We could be looking at a post-Bibi Netanyahu future sooner than anybody would have guessed.
Voters will try to sort it all out March 2nd. If not, the country will head to a fourth election. John Waggy, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell does join us now from Israel. So, Chris, what significant trends do you see in the polls there just days before Monday's election?
Well, Ephraim, as we heard in John's report, the polls are actually tilting toward Netanyahu and his political party, the Likud. I'll show you a headline here, right here, from PM, Prime Minister near 61-seat majority. The latest poll finds. Now, the reason that's significant is 61 is the magic number, so to speak, that any political party needs to get to form a government. Right now, for the last almost a year, both parties, the blue and white or Likud, have been unable to make 61 seats. They've been vacillating between 55 seats, 57 seats. But if Netanyahu and Likud can get over to 61 seats, it's going to be a huge impact. It would be something unexpected for many people that would actually happen. Also want to mention, Ephraim, the impact of Bernie Sanders. John mentioned that in the story. You know, he talked about Netanyahu being a reactionary racist. He said that he would, if he's elected, he'd move the embassy back to back to Tel Aviv from Jerusalem. And I think that has an impact on Israeli voters, that they would see that Netanyahu, so close to the Trump administration, might be something they would favor as opposed to a possible Bernie Sanders presidency. One last thing, Ephraim, you know, the impact of the coronavirus actually on the election, the possibility of as much as 400,000 Israelis not going to the polls because they're afraid of the virus, that could have an impact on the election as well. We'll see how it turns out on Monday.
Speaking of the coronavirus, how is the country they're preparing?
Well, Netanyahu says his policy is over-preparedness. And actually, right now, they've canceled all flights to and from China. They've added Italy and Australia to the restricted travel list, and unprecedented recommendation against all unnecessary travel by Israelis. So it's hit here as well in Israel, as well as the U.S. and around the world.
So a good sign, we're hearing that there may be a company there just weeks away from a vaccine.
You know, Ephraim, this could be a potential huge story, and it's a good story. Migal, which is a biotech facility up there in the north, they've actually been working for about 4 years on a poultry coronavirus vaccine. It's very similar to the human coronavirus, and they think that because of all the research they've done, they've got a head start on a possible vaccine that could be used not only for the poultry, but actually used for humans. We plan to go up there this Sunday and do a story on that. Hopefully we'll have that on Monday's 700 Club and CBN News Channel.
Look forward to that. What can we expect this week for Jerusalem Dateline?
Well, Ephraim, on this week's Jerusalem Dateline, you saw John Waggy's report. We're going to have more election analysis with John. He's been following Israeli politics since 1996, and so we'll have more insight from him, John, about that on Jerusalem Dateline, as well as the Israel and coronavirus, what they're doing. We also have a story by Dale Hurd. You know, you may not know this, but I have an Irish ancestry, and we're going to be showing Dale's story about a revival there in Israel, and also promoting CBN's documentary, I Am Patrick, which comes out in just a couple of weeks. Actually, on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th and 18th, we'll be promoting that as well. That's going to be a great film for people to watch. So those are the things we'll have on this week's Jerusalem Dateline. All
right. Thank you, Chris. Lots to look forward to. And you can catch Jerusalem Dateline with Chris tonight on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 9:30 Eastern. Angry Muslims shot 2 Christian Pakistani men after their attempts to build a church in their community. The British Pakistani Christian Association reports it happened at the city of Sahawal. The conflict started last summer when Azim, a Christian man, donated part of his land to build a church. Muslims complained, and local authorities put a stop to the construction. Later, when Azim tried to build a home on the property, they were attacked by a mob and shot in the head. They've been released from the hospital, but police have not charged their attackers. I want to turn now to elections in the United States. Bernie Sanders' momentum in the Democratic primaries is making some party leaders uneasy. They fear losing control of the House if the Vermont senator is on the ballot. They're also worried time is running out to stop his advance. South Carolina's primary is this Saturday, and then there is Super Tuesday with voters in 14 states casting ballots come next week. Coming up, Planned Parenthood's surprising gift to members of Congress has some saying the organization is going too far to get its message across. Stay with us.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
The nation's largest abortion provider gave members of Congress an unexpected gift and message. Our Mark Martin spoke with radio host and cultural commentator Todd Starnes for the story.
Todd, tell us about Planned Parenthood's unexpected gift to lawmakers in California, which also included some explicit language.
Yeah, that's right. And language that we really can't even repeat on television. It's that vile. Look, this happened in California at the State House. I received a message from one of our readers in that area, and they alerted me to this bizarre incident where Planned Parenthood staffers apparently dropped by gift bags for every lawmaker, including Republicans, in the Sacramento, in the state capitol in Sacramento. And inside this welcome gift box was, in fact, condoms that included a very profane message on the packaging, which many Republicans took to be a threat. And in essence, Planned Parenthood was saying in a very profane way, don't you mess with us.
Wow. Well, where do we stand with federal funding of Planned Parenthood?
Yeah, look, that is the reality is that our tax dollars are still funding Planned Parenthood. And I think many of us are praying for the day that not a single penny of our tax money is used to fund these Planned Parenthood abortion mills. But the reality is that we're going to have to continue to urge our lawmakers up on Capitol Hill to defund Planned Parenthood. We're going to have to light a fire and say, you know what, this has got to come to an end. This is not acceptable. But honestly, I think this exposes Planned Parenthood for what they really are. They're not a family planning organization. They are a radical leftist group that is hell-bent on providing abortions at the expense of the taxpayers. And we've got to say, not going to happen.
Todd, 2 undercover journalists are facing criminal charges in a California court for working to expose Planned Parenthood's alleged selling of aborted baby body parts. If they were practicing undercover journalism for anything else, do you think the state would be prosecuting them?
Oh, there's absolutely no way they would. And I think everyone knows that, including people in the mainstream media who are ignoring this story. If this was a New York Times journalist that was facing jail time, this would be wall-to-wall coverage in the mainstream media. You'd have every cable news channel broadcasting from California. But that's simply not the case, because these are, by and large, conservative journalists who exposed a very nefarious thing that Planned Parenthood is doing. And again, this is not up for debate. We know exactly what Planned Parenthood was up to here. And the fact that these young journalists are under attack now, could face jail time, shows you just how nefarious Planned Parenthood really is.
Do you think that Congress will eventually defund Planned Parenthood entirely? Are there grassroots efforts to see this happen? What are your thoughts?
Well, there are grassroots efforts, and I do hope that Planned Parenthood is eventually defunded. Again, I'm not quite sure why our tax dollars are funding this organization when it's very clear that their intent is to kill unborn babies and then to sell off their body parts to the highest bidder. This is appalling, and quite frankly, this is an issue that goes far beyond just Republican and Democrat. It doesn't matter what political party you are. We should at least all be able to agree that that kind of activity is absolutely unacceptable in America.
All right, Todd Starnes, thank you so much for your time and insight, sir.
Thank you.
Still ahead, the talk of spring training for Major League Baseball isn't about the game itself. Our Sean Brown breaks it all down. When we come back, stay with us.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Welcome back. It is Friday and time to talk sports with CBN Sports Director Sean Brown. So glad to have you back. So tell us what's happening. Preseason Major League Baseball, the Houston Astros, and signs. What's going on?
Well, usually about this time, we're looking at teams trying to figure out how they're looking in spring training, dusting, kind of getting the rust off a little bit, having some downtime. But instead, we're talking about the Houston Astros and sign stealing. Let me break it down for you. Sign stealing, what they're saying is, allegedly, the Astros, between 2017, their World Series run, and 2019, they apparently placed a camera in center field at their home games, basically looking at the pitcher as the pitcher would give signs, pitching signs, hey, fastball, knuckleball, curveball, or whatever, to communicate to the pitcher what pitch to actually throw the batter. The pitcher, if you're watching the game, you can see the pitcher going, shaking his head no, nodding his head yes, to say, yes, I want that pitch. And once the Astros, who are watching in the dugout, sees whatever pitch they're going to throw, they communicate by beating on trash cans or some type of sign to communicate to the batter that, hey, he's throwing low left fast, low left curve, or wherever it is, coming across the plate. Now, baseball's already hard. It's hard for pitchers to hit a 90-mile-an-hour ball, and trying to figure out the best pitchers can place the ball wherever they want inside the box. They can go top right, top left, low left, low right. They can put it wherever they want. And so the best batters can connect with the ball wherever they want as it comes across the plate. It's just a timing thing. And the guess is they don't know what pitch is coming. So by the time they identify it, they have to adjust and be able to connect with the ball. Now, if the batters have a heads up as to where the ball's coming, that's an advantage to the batters. And it's unfortunate to the pitcher who they're like, wait a minute, why are these guys hitting everything? Well, because they know what's coming. They have time to prepare. They know it's coming in lower left or wherever, and they can adjust and put the bat exactly where they want it. And so that's a problem for baseball because that is cheating, folks.
Yeah.
Folks, that is cheating. And so now we're going into the game, the spring training, and they're already getting booed. We're not even in the season yet, and they're getting booed. Folks are holding up signs, and they're going to be dealing with it the whole season. It's just it's a bad look for baseball. So the ratings will probably go up because everybody's going to be watching to see what's actually happening. So there's that. But that's pretty much sign stealing. That's what's happening right now. And hopefully we can get past it. Teams will measure up and begin to play baseball again the way it's supposed to be played.
Yeah, honestly would be nice. Well, now we did come across a report that Major League Soccer could replace Major League Baseball in popularity. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, you know, soccer is popular everywhere else in the world but the United States, unless it's women's soccer. The women are killing it. The U.S. women's team they're killing it.
Amazing.
Okay, and so for Americans, we like instant gratification. And because soccer is a game of patience, everything has to line up right and to get those goals. All the other sports, hockey, baseball, basketball, football, there's instant gratification. We get to see high scores. We get to see scores. And so the potential, yes. If the men would just start winning games, we've got the Olympics coming up. If the men will start winning games, maybe, because soccer is such a beautiful sport. Baseball is a beautiful sport, but soccer, there's so much going on. It's a faster sport. So we'll have to see. The success of the men's U.S. team, you know, that would have a lot to do with it.
Okay, real quick, can't let you go. March Madness, quick update.
Okay, anything could happen, man. We're about 2 or 3 weeks out before the tournament. Last week we had Baylor, Gonzaga, Kansas, San Diego State, Dayton. This week we've got Kansas at number 1, Baylor second, Gonzaga at 3. Dayton is at 4, and San Diego State is at 5. But Kentucky has moved up to 8, and so anything could happen. It's all about who shows up, and we're getting there, man. The madness is just around the corner, so be ready for it. We don't know who's going to be number 1, 2, and 3, those seeds, but that'll start to pan out the next few weeks here.
That's the exciting part of it all. And remember, you can catch more of Sean Brown on Going the Distance this weekend on the CBN News Channel. It begins Saturday at 6:30, then on Sunday at 7:30. Both are Eastern Standard Time. Coming up, African-American conservatives like Clarence Thomas and the lack of recognition they received during Black History Month. We're going to take a look when we come back.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, you know, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
He's the longest serving and also only the second African-American confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court. But as Charlene Aaron reports, Clarence Thomas is among Black conservatives often not celebrated for their accomplishments during Black History Month.
A A new documentary about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas explores his life, his faith, and his path toward conservative ideals. It also highlights his struggles, both within and outside the African American community.
I will nominate Judge Clarence Thomas to serve as Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court.
Created equal, Clarence Thomas, in his own words, goes back to Thomas's childhood in the segregated South and his transition from a Black Panther to conservative ideals. The film also showcases his contentious Supreme Court nomination.
That's when all heck broke loose.
Judge Thomas began to use work situations to discuss sex.
We know exactly what's going on here. This is the wrong Black guy.
Thomas has served as a Supreme Court justice for nearly 3 decades. He's often ignored, however, instead of celebrated for his accomplishments, which include being the second African American on the court. Ken Blackwell of the Family Research Council addressed the issue recently in USA Today, writing, "Don't forget Justice Clarence Thomas in Black History Month celebrations."
In this time where you have to be politically correct, you have to adopt the language and the worldview of the left, Clarence Thomas does none of that. And therefore, he is seen as a clear and present threat to their orthodoxy. And they do whatever they can to either erase his contribution or to totally ignore it.
In the documentary, Thomas shares how he was caught up in racist and often violent demonstrations at one point in his life. Then a spiritual encounter changed his life.
I saw what I had become, lashing out at every single thing. And then I asked God that if you take anger out of my heart, I'll never hate again.
Blackwell says that faith has been a guiding beacon that Thomas brought to the High Court.
Clarence Thomas has come to embrace a notion that it was at the heart of our republic. And that is that our basic freedoms are gifts from God. He understands that, it is the human conscience which is at the heart of our individualism, and protecting the freedom of the human conscience, protecting religious liberty, protecting the centrality of God in the life of our nation is Clarence's gift.
For that reason, Justice Thomas is more than worthy to be honored now and for years to come. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Time now for your Friday Faithful. Remember, Scripture tells us our Creator rested on the 7th day, so it's a good idea to follow His lead. With that word, make today a fabulous Friday, and make sure to rest this weekend. It will certainly strengthen you for the week to come. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you right back here, same time Monday. Goodbye. God bless.